Know that a number times 10, a whole number like 48 times 10, becomes, sorry, it's a little laggy right now, 48 times 10 will become 48 and a 0, or 480. And we think about numbers as groups of 10. So 50, think of this as 5 times 10. We can tackle a problem like 48 times 10, by 5 times 50, by thinking about tens. And here's what I would do. So 48 times 50 seems nasty, but I'm going to think of this as 48 times 10, and then think of that times 5. So it's like taking 40 times 50, but in smaller chunks. So 48 times 10 is just 480. Now this number, I want to take that and multiply it by 5, because 48 times 10, well, 10 is 5 times smaller than 50. So how do we deal with this? Well, when you're multiplying a single number by a big number like this, it's very easy to think about 480 kind of spread out, as you said it, 480. So we're kind of spreading that out. And we can think of now 5 multiplied by these two parts. So we're going back to the distributive property again. We're saying 5 times each of these parts is the same as 5 times the whole thing. So this is, the parts here aren't that bad. 5 times 80 is the same thing as 5 times 8, which is 40, but that 10 times bigger, because 80 is 10 times bigger than 8. So again, that base 10 really helps us out. So 5 times 80 is 400, and then we're adding 5 times 400. Well, that's the same thing as 5 times 4, which is 20, but it's 10 times bigger. Well, how do you figure out 10 times bigger? And let me go back to this one right here. That's kind of like 40 10 times bigger is 40 times 10, which is 400. Remember, we're adding that 0 to 40. And now 20 10 times bigger is 20 times 10, or 200. So 5 times 400 is 200, and we add them up to get 600. Now we can use this idea to think of any combination of numbers. 72 times 61. What do we do here? Well, 72 times 10 is not so bad, and 61 is almost a multiple of 10. So why don't we think of this as 72 times 10, which is 720. And then, well, 60 would be 6 times bigger than that. So we take 72 times 10, which was 720, and multiply that by 6. Well, again, I would think of 720 kind of spread out as 700 plus 20, and then multiply the 6 by the parts. So 6 times 700 plus 6 times 20. 6 times 700, well, that's kind of like 6 times 7, except it's 100 times bigger, because I know that because 7 times 100 is 700. So if I do 6 times 7, I get 42. I think of that 100 times bigger. So 100 is like 10 multiplied twice. So it's 42, 0, and another 0. Plus 6 times 20, well, 6 times 2 is 12, but 20 is 10 times bigger, so it's 120. We can add that up to 4320. Put the comma in if you want. So it's 4,320. So let's go back and keep track. So we had 72 times 10. We took that number and multiplied it by 6. So far we've solved 72 times 60. But we want 61, so we need one more 72 onto this number. So I'm just going to add it. 4320 plus 72 is 4392. And that's our answer.